Hello and welcome everybody to the Poker Fuse podcast. This is episode 15 coming at you on May 17th. I am your host, Mike Gentili, along with my co-host, Nick Jones. Nick, what's going on in the Poker Fuse studios these days?
Hi guys. It's all busy in the Poker Fuse studios as always, just about managing to hold down the fort without your good presence this week.
Yes, I have been away, actually just re-emerging into civilization, it feels like. Spent the past few days down in the Grand Canyon. Currently in sunny Las Vegas. So that's exciting times on this end. Hopefully there's some exciting times on that end as well.
And how is your all-consuming rage regarding resorts fees? Is it subsided into just a general irritation?
It has not. I mean, there's resorts fees, there's parking fees that you got to pay to park on the strip now. Wi-Fi, they only allow 2 devices to be connected before they start charging you extra,
wow,
which is included in the resort fees. Yeah, Vegas is taking a turn for sure.
And what hotel are you staying?
We are currently at the Flamingo. It's about mid-range for those that have not been out and had the Vegas experience. It's centrally located. So far we have a really, really nice room. We can see the Bellagio fountain from our room. Yeah, very nice, very nice.
So, having prepared the show notes for this week, we've got a fair few topics to talk about. Mike, which, having looked at the show notes, which you least looking forward to talking about?
The least, I would say probably the disappointing results by PokerStars for Q1.
Okay, I will have all the questions lined up for you for that one then. Right. Let's dive in.
Last week was the unofficial start, I guess, of the big spring online poker tournament series season. We have in full force going right now. We have Scoop by PokerStars. We also have Party Poker with their KO series. We have 888, right? Kicked off something. XL Inferno, I believe. Yeah.
They are there, yeah.
And is this the first time that we're seeing GG Network jump into the fray as well?
Yeah, so GG Network's Good Game Series. I mean, we would have talked about this a bit on previous podcasts. We've seen, in some respects, kind of what I've tried to coin on Twitter, the spring bifurcation, although the term hasn't really caught on yet. But we're seeing like a separation of. We saw quite a lot of tournament series running last month as well. We're seeing a little less kind of organisation and overlapping schedules with PokerStars organising their Scoop later and later. But PokerStars did schedule their Scoop, and then most operators managed to find a reason also to run a tournament series along at the same time. So on Sunday we had PokerStars Scoop kick-off. It's absolutely massive, $75 million guaranteed. That may be growing, 200 and something tournaments. Party Poker announced their KO series with $30 million guaranteed, which is the same size as their Power Fest that they had last month. And the other big one, definitely, GG Network, with only their third ever online tournament series slotted in to coincide with both of those, $10 million guaranteed. So yeah, it's been a busy few days for online tournament players.
Yeah, just those 3 operators alone. I'm looking at this handy-dandy chart that Anuj put up over on Poker Industry Pro, and it shows that it's nearly 600 tournaments just between those 3.
Yeah, 600 tournaments and $150 million guaranteed. If we added this to like the ones last month, so we had last month Unibet and WPN, GG Network had another series, Party Poker had another series, we'd probably be at something like 200 million. Also, it's worth mentioning that 888's XL Inferno kicked off, just looking at this last night, so I think that was Wednesday. And the only reason I'm not talking about that so much is it's a lot smaller these days than the kind of the competition. They do not punch their weight really in their tournament series. There's only $1.4 million guaranteed in that series. They used to be a lot larger. But yeah, so they are definitely the big 3 that are running at the moment.
So what I am also seeing here is the last row of the table that Anaj put together has total overlays, and the row before that shows the number of overlays per operator. And usually overlays are a double-edged sword, right? Because it costs the operator money, but it also serves as a marketing opportunity as well. I'm seeing there's quite a large number of overlays in the party poker column.
Yeah, so PokerStars kind of pretty much doing what they always do. They have a few here and there. We have, 5 overlays in total. They've had 60 or so tournaments so far. 5 of them overlaid only fractionally. And they always do have that a little bit. Some of their super high roller ones, we're honestly talking like missing 1 or 2 entries. And we're seeing an overlay. I mean, GG Network is basically right on the money there. They've had 2 overlays out of 52 tournaments. Like $3,000 or something out of a total like payout of over $4 million in prize money. And I think, those 2 operators, that's what they're aiming for. If they're not on the line and they're not getting, just scratching overlays, they could have gone for higher guarantees, but it shows obviously they got their satellite schedule all right and they've judged it right. Party Poker, on the other hand, have outwardly said in the past that they see overlays as a marketing expense and as a way to get people to the tables. There's going to be a limit to how much they want to be overlaying. They might be on that. they might be reaching that. So at the moment, we calculated that they have paid out over $500,000 in the 76 tournaments so far, including their opening day. They had, I think, 2 of their 6 championship events. They have, I think, 2 every Sunday for 3 Sundays. They all have $1 million guaranteed, except the last has $2 million guaranteed. The opening 2 both overlaid pretty substantially. I think, if it continues that trend, we'll see over $1 million in total overlaid. That might be exceeding their expectations of what they want.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where their expectations lie, but I can say it seems to me that as far as overlays go, you want them early on in the series so that you can use those as a marketing tool for that particular series as it rolls on. And it seems like, at least from the early days, that's what's happening. And if they can use that $500,000 number to attract more players, that could shore up the rest of the series and make it quite successful for them overall.
Breaking news! This is extremely exciting. I didn't actually want to do this segment first because I've been sitting here waiting to see if we got a PR through from PokerStars that I felt that we were going to get. Anticipated they're coming through, and it's just landed now, so we can literally do it to the second. Obviously, this won't be out for a few hours, but we'll be closer to the mark as possible. That they are officially upping scoop guarantees to $80 million now. So we knew, and we were just about to talk about before this PR came across the desk, that we knew that they had added 3, although they're only saying 2 here, I'm pretty sure it's 3, 6 plus Hold'em MTT events. Now, initially they added them as side events, so not officially numbered part of the thing. And then we spied 24 hours ago that they had now become new, officially numbered scoop events. So it's a 6 plus Hold'em tournament. Yeah, there are 3 of them because it's across the 3 tiers, so a $55, a $530, and a $5,200 bind tournament. They've got the guarantees TBD, which again, I'm pretty sure if we saw in the client that the guarantees are set, they total about $400,000, the 3 of them. And so that's the first ever MTTs that PokerStars has ever done in 6 plus Hold'em. And they also have, for the very first time, have sit and goes. They have sit and go satellites to this event. They've been in the client for a few days now. So it's the very first time the operators had those too. I'm just seeing what else they've injected into the schedule here. Some more PKOs, some 8 max turbos. But yes, total guarantees now 80 million. So
80 million. So that is double the next 2 highest, which is Party Poker at 30 and GG Network at 10. Good job.
Yeah, no doubt PokerStars can, they know how to run these absolutely huge tournament series, and they do it extremely well. The last scoop, it was, I believe, 70 million. They basically increment these by $5 million every time. And for the last few years, they've already exceeded it by 30%. So last year, they paid out 90 million. So we would expect them easily to cover this. The question is whether they can hit the 100 million mark in total prize money paid out. It definitely seems possible, and with these extra tournaments on the schedule, that's kind of makes it even more plausible that they will manage it. But yeah, so that I'm not quite sure if that actually extends the schedules like the dates. So the last events are May 24th, so I'm not sure if that makes it a couple of days longer, if they've just been put alongside. But yes, Scoop 2019.
For as successful as the Scoop is turning out to be for PokerStars, it seems that perhaps the Q1 for 2019 has not been as successful, Nick?
Yeah, it was reported this week that the Stars Group reported their first quarter results for 2019. They're certainly disappointing for a few reasons. If we focus on the online poker business, it was further declines year over year in the double digits for online poker. Now, a large proportion of that they attribute to currency fluctuations, which I think we spent much too long explaining last time we talked about PokerStars quarterly results or another operator's quarterly results, so I won't repeat that there. But
I don't know about you, but I'm comfortable going with, and what's the term that they use?
Constant currency.
Constant currency, correct.
Yeah, sure.
I'm comfortable going with that term.
So the decline there was 4.5%. Which is pretty much, I think, in line with the quarter before. I think it was on constant currency, low single-digit declines. There are other disappointing numbers there as well, I think, on the casino front and sportsbook front as well for different reasons. But if we just focus on the poker numbers, I think the primary reason these numbers are declining are what they're now terming disrupted markets. These are, ultimately great. Is
Russia still considered one of those markets?
Yeah, so they really did not go into detail at all in this is investors' call. Barely mentioned the markets, let alone any specific mitigation strategies that they might have. But yeah, reading between the lines, I think I think they listed 4 countries, but the big one by far is going to be Russia. Again, we would have talked about this 2.5 months ago in their last quarterly, but they've launched another poker client specifically targeting the Russian market to try and mitigate what are financial processing difficulties that they're having kind of serving that market. They talked about how they were, confident that they had good mitigation strategies and they expected this market to grow. I can only assume that this, did not bear out in Q1 and the problems kind of extended into this quarter, and honestly probably will extend into the second quarter as well. So this is impacting the revenue they're making, impacted the customer deposits that they had on account, impacted quarterly net yield. I mean, numbers across the board I think were largely impacted by this.
On the plus side, though, I'm looking currently at their financial performance, the stock price. I see there was a spike here in the first week of May, and if I remember correctly, that was because perhaps some decline was already baked into the stock price, and analysts were thinking that it may not be as bad as they had first thought.
I assume the uptick is the Fox Bets announcement, which we talked about.
Last week. Correct. Right.
And a lot of the investor school this week was talking about, although that we had, short-term, I'm quite sure the best term, not financial difficulties, short-term operational difficulties, individual markets, etc., impacting comparatives. The long-term outlook is very, very good. Fox Bets being a good example of how they see themselves preparing for the large opportunity in the US market. We talked about that at length last week, and I don't disagree with them. I'm not going to comment on the value that it brings to the business, but obviously they are preparing and they have a lot of now good brand and good expertise in trying to take advantage of the market opportunity.
And part of that preparation has been the signing of some new ambassadors?
Yeah. So it was interesting. So they announced less than 24 hours before the conference call, and we have an article written by our Samantha Bevington that we published today or yesterday on Pro, diving into this in detail, that they have appointed a new ambassador to specifically the PokerStars Sochi brand. That's the name of their new real money poker client, PokerStars Sochi. If you're in Russia, that's, I believe, the default that you download there. This guy, whose name is Dmitry Gubanev, is my shot at pronouncing his surname. Obviously not a name that I imagine many listeners will be familiar with, but doing some digging around about him, he seems like a pretty big deal in sports. I think he's a sports commentator and general... I was going to say busybody, but generally, I think what I understand is his name is quite synonymous with like kind of televised sports. And googling around even further, he also does have political ties. He has backed Putin at his last election bid, and the mayor of Moscow as well. He politically backed him and is considered a confidant of both. And so this... I actually kind of thought PokerStars, announced this a day before so that they had something to point to say this is some of the kind of things that we're doing in the Russian market to
mitigate the problems there. Yeah. Okay.
And maybe that was just said implicitly, but yeah. So that was a key appointment, I think, and it goes to show certainly that PokerStars isn't like giving up on this market at all. They are clearly doing what they can to continue to provide their products to Russian players, which we believe is like a 10%, 11% chunk of PokerStars business. That's not a reported figure; that's our own estimations. So another announcement was some UFC ambassadors as well, which was, I think, news that came out earlier this week.
Right. I as we've discussed in the past, I don't really follow UFC, but I did recognize Bruce Buffer, who is not new to poker fans. He, I believe, would do the shuffle up and deal for the World Series of Poker for quite some time.
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell?
Ooh, yeah, you could be right. I mean, it's certainly a name that I recognize. I think you might have said that name, and I wouldn't have been able to say that he was basically the voice of UFC. But yeah, so him plus two. Again, from what I can understand, absolute top tier UFC fighters: Daniel Cormier.
I'm glad you've got those names this week.
Light heavyweight fighter, champion, and 12th ranked UFC fighter. Oh no, sorry, my apologies. Johnny Walker is the light heavyweight fighter, and he's number
red
12.
or black.
What does that even mean?
No, that's Scotch. Forget it.
And Daniel Cormier is UFC heavyweight champion. So three big names who will be ambassadors of PokerStars. Primarily what we see as a marketing role, I think. Yeah,
I think this is in line with their initiative that we're seeing play out this year with the UFC partnership, where they are looking to expand their product exposure into new audiences, and it's quite interesting to see, or will be quite interesting to see how they are going to execute on that marketing plan as far as, in stadium ads and such, and to see actually what kind of return they get on that investment. UFC is, though not exclusive to the U.S., it is a large segment of their audience is in the U.S., and PokerStars has yet to be able to expand into the U.S. market as much as they would like to, though we expect that with that Fox deal that this will happen a little bit more rapidly than it would have if it were just online poker.
I just got your Johnny Walker joke, by the way.
Okay. Well, at least you got it. There you go.
So a month or two back, we would have talked on this podcast about partypoker and their efforts to ban bots on their online poker room. They announced over a 4-month period that they closed hundreds of bot accounts, confiscated and reimbursed hundreds of thousands of dollars to players. And we said at the time that we wanted to make sure that this was not a one-time thing by them, that this is something that they did consistently. And to be fair to them, they've done exactly that. More details this week about kind of a second wave of bot closures.
Yep. So being out of the office, I am relying here on the excellent resources over at Poker Industry Pro. Article by Samantha Bevington details that Party Poker announced 94 fraudulent accounts have been closed last month, in the month of April, totaling $180,000 in reimbursements going back to players.
Yeah, the account closures span both their .com network and their .eu network, which is their French and Spanish online poker rooms. So there's about 40 to 50 accounts on each of the two networks, and a total of about $180,000 seized and confiscated across those two networks. And it continues on from the prior 4 months. They announced ultimately similar amounts of accounts seized. It's about $180,000 a month, every month for the last 5 months now. And yes, around 60 to 80 accounts per month has been closed.
Yeah, the figure that really jumps out at me is the total, which is nearly $1 million that they've returned in that period of time back to players, which is it's substantial.
It's a lot of money, and yeah, with all these things, it's one of those. It's tricky for operators to completely understand that. They publicise this information. On one hand, fantastic that they're doing this, and then on the other hand, wow that this was happening before, and you. I'm not saying that they weren't doing this before, they didn't publicise it before, but it certainly seems that they stepped up efforts, just how rampant this problem was. So yeah, over $1 million, and obviously that's what they could confiscate from these accounts. Some money will have been withdrawn as profit to the operators of bots.
Right, and they are saying that this recent success in bot detection is due to the poker fraud team.
Well, and this is where things get interesting. So, yeah, they talked about they have this poker fraud team. It's made up of former professional poker players. They said they've got new algorithms and they're much better equipped. The quote here is, "We're equipped with the necessary knowledge and expertise to investigate suspicious activity, and the team aids partypoker in ridding the site of unscrupulous accounts." That was a quote from last month when they announced the first kind of wave of closures. But they did say in this second wave, and I'm just trying to find the number, that pretty high percentage, I think it's around 20%, over the last 5 months, 20% of all account closures have come from player reports directly, not from their own team noticing this the statistical anomalies to investigate the accounts.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that they actually even publicized that number, because the fact that players are assisting in this bot detection is going to be difficult for them when it comes, as listeners may already know, they have plans to ban HUDs. And in doing so, that's going to mean a restriction on at least a part of the hand histories as they come through. And that's hand histories are the vehicle by which players can discover or at least have some hardened proof beyond playing with them at the tables and just getting a hunch. That's the way that they can look and analyze the play, analyze the play of these opponents that they're having to determine if they are indeed bots.
We expected by now to have the specific details of when partypoker will be rolling out these changes. In fact, yesterday, a rather bizarre occurrence where on the official partypoker Instagram account, Patrick Leonard created an Instagram story, which is a chain of short videos, which he recorded of himself talking about these changes, and he confirmed that this May 28th date, which has already been kind of leaked out and knocking around a bit, that will be where they would start these ecology changes. I didn't watch the videos, and they were, to cut a long story short, they were taken down very soon afterwards by partypoker, who then said that some of the details are right, some of the details were wrong, and we'll have more specifics soon. But I believe what was said was that he said that first, on the 28th, all players will be forced to do an alias change, and presumably there's going to be a new hand replayer, and I think they would stop hand history downloads. But then 2 weeks later is when they'd implement a complete ban on HUDs. But anyway, those factors might change again. But yeah, I mean, and it plays into an article, Mike, that you published this week on PokerViews, which touches very much on this topic.
Yeah, we did an interview with Derek Charles, who's the managing partner over at Max Value Software. They have under their umbrella both Poker Tracker and Hold'em Manager, which are the top two poker tracking software pieces. And he came out with a pretty bold statement in saying that hand histories are a fundamental online poker player's right. And with those under attack, or at least threatened to be removed and pulled away, it's even more interesting to see that this battle against the bot, if you want to call it that, is being fueled by at least a significant portion of player input that are a direct result of having these hand histories exist.
Yeah, it very much depends on partypoker's implementation. So in theory, you absolutely need to allow players to download their hand histories. If it could be done after the fact, it could be done 24 hours later, I believe. So run it once, for example. I think that's what they're planning, but it's still not executed, which is that hand histories aren't saved to the hard drive whilst you play hands, but they will be made available 24 hours later, and they could then be imported into tracking tools. So you can track your own results, track your profit and loss, and you can also analyze your opponents. Now, that allows you to get reads on your opponents if screen names aren't anonymous, but it also...
Yeah, that's the big caveat there.
Yeah, and so with Party Poker, if they only allow one screen name change and not, new names every time you sit at the table, which is the implementation of some sites, then you still would be able to, over time build up a profile and detect bots. But I think what Party Poker want to do is to stop you, building up knowledge about a player so that you can hunt them out. In which case they have to have kind of fully anonymous names, as in they change every time you sit at the table. I'm not sure if that's what Party Poker is planning or not, because they've also said same as where they're going to allow a very limited form of third-party tools without specifying what. So the devil's very much in the details on what it allows, but I broadly speaking do side with Derek Charles there, that I think, I don't know, it's tricky. I can understand the what sites are trying to do, and I think it is kind of a noble goal in the interests of the online poker site and the players as well. But clearly, when you rely on players to be kind of your first indication of a player to investigate, then you're going to have real trouble if you're going to stop people tracking any statistical play.
Yeah, it just seems that Derek and company are winning this argument big time, because you have this implementation coming at a time where they're also announcing $1 million return to players because of bots. And it just shows how deep this problem is. And by taking away what they have admittedly shown that 20% approximately had been identified as a direct result of player feedback, which happens through these hand histories, that's going to be a tough PR sell, in my opinion.
Yeah. So another story that we reported on this week, which is kind of tangentially related, is a move that PokerStars is making regarding limiting the number of tables a player can play at one time. So this is kind of in the interest of improving the experience for a casual player who might be only playing 1 or 2 tables, that if you're up against somebody who's playing 12 or 18 or even 24 tables at the same time, they can slow the games down, slow down the action. So something PokerStars has been experimenting with for a long time is limiting the number of tables that people can play at one time at the cash game tables.
Yeah, and in addition to reducing the number of cash game tables that can be played, I see here in an article you wrote, Nick, that they also are going to be implementing some changes to time banks?
No, so they already have introduced. So the time bank changes were a few weeks ago. I think.
February.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So it was relating that they made these time bank changes to speed up play. So they basically, broadly speaking, reduced the time to act by about 40% across the board, across all sites, across all games. And this is a further effort in that in what they're doing there to try and, I guess, speed up the games for players. And again, it's understandable. So what they've done, this is not on the .com network at all, and we don't know whether it will come there. But they have been trying this for, I think, over a year in Italy, where the most cash game tables you can play is 6 at any one time. And they have now rolled it out to the European or PokerStars Southern Europe network, which is Spain, France, and Portugal. Again, implementing this 6 maximum. It's only for cash game tables, not and ring game tables, not Zoom, not sit and goes, not MTTs.
Yeah, and so I would imagine that PokerStars, in their vast amount of data that they collect, is implementing this because the numbers show that it will not have a huge adverse effect. But I'm wondering, have you seen the player community reaction? What are they saying? Do they think that this number is just too low?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I haven't, honestly. And obviously, any chatter would be confined to the kind of the foreign language sites, which perhaps we don't monitor as closely. But I think they've said in the past when they implemented it in Italy that 0.7%. I'm going off memory here, but it was definitely a 0 point something percentage of players would be impacted by this, regularly play more than 6 tables. And they said that their data shows that when they implement this, then, players can, adapt what they're doing. Now, that adaptation might be that they play more tables on another site at the same time. Or it could be that they just switch to playing Zoom tables or add in some sit and goes or that kind of thing. So on one hand, it's quite a dramatic change in that their default is 24 tables. That's the maximum you can play. So it's a huge cut from that. But their rules at the moment are quite bizarre in that it's 24 maximum, but on a per player basis, after warnings, you can have a personal limit set lower than 24 if you slow down games too frequently. And that's a policy they've had for a few years now, which, doesn't seem particularly manageable when you have an absolutely huge player base. But again, there's not too many people that are, would be impacted by that. But so, this is 6 across the board. I would be surprised if this isn't rolled out wider. It doesn't come to the .com market, but PokerStars does take a very long time with these kinds of changes, rolling them out. To say, I think it's been a year since it came to Italy.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll never know the internal expectations of PokerStars, but I would be curious to know what percentage of the current players that play more than 6 cash game tables at a time, what percent they expect to be channeled into Zoom, what percent they expect may pull up a sit and go or MTTs to supplement some of their play, and what percentage they expect that may go to another site to try and reach their maximum amount of tables that they're trying to play.
Yeah, and we see other sites have also they also have maxes of this size. Run It Once has a 6 table max, I think, and Phil Galfond wanted a 4. But the community here had a community vote, and the community settled on 6. I think Unibet's maximum is 8, going up to 10 at the highest stakes. I'm not even sure what Party Poker and 888 is, but so this is not fresh ground that they're breaking. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it roll out wide. So, Mike, you arrived in Las Vegas today, or you're on your second day?
No, actually, we got in last night after a little bit of hiking and a lot of bit of driving. So, didn't actually get out to see Vegas much. We'll be looking to today to get the full Vegas experience.
Cool. So, what's on the short list? What's on the must do for your 24 hours?
Well, yeah. So I'm actually traveling with my girlfriend Janine, and this is her first time to Las Vegas, so we're doing the tourist thing. So definitely the Strip, downtown, and perhaps a little bit of clubbing in the evening.
Okay, that's your top 3: Strip, downtown, and clubbing. Mike Gentili's top tips for Las Vegas in 24 hours.
That is, yes. All right, well, that wraps it up for this edition. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.